Welcome to Smooth Brain Radio, the talk show where we iron out the wrinkles of your brain, one topic at a time.
And we're back. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's a Bonobo show. And today's Lothens topic, so I'm going to let him kick right on into this. What are we talking about today,
Episode 8. Oh, but we're going to be talking about what's good. What's good with you, huh?
I mean, everything's good with me because I'm good at heart.
Okay. Are you sure about that?
I like to think so.
Well, you like to think so, but that's your own opinion, right? Your opinion
Exactly.
of yourself. Yeah, I mean, everybody kind of justifies their own actions and their own thoughts as, they justify it to make it seem good to themselves. If they didn't think they were good, then, how do you sleep at night? How do you go on living? All this stuff. So,
people like Dahmer slept pretty well, I'm assuming. He's definitely wasn't good, so...
Well, I mean, from our perspective, yeah, he was a horrible human being. But from his perspective, I'm sure he could justify it in a way to convince himself that what he was doing was acceptable.
Yeah,
so that's a subjective opinion of what is good. It's each individual person seems to have their own idea of morals, ethics, goodness. But can good ever be objective? As in, there's an overarching idea of what good is that supersedes everybody's own personal opinion. That's the question today. Can good be objective?
Well, is this a moral issue, you think? Or because, no, morals are still...
It has moral undertones.
Yeah.
Absolutely it does. I mean, it has religious undertones, because if you can say that good can be objective, whereas no matter what we think individually or even as a group is good, there's a higher good that is above everything else. So that would be like the religious view of their God, right? So God says to slay all the Amalekites, women, children, everybody.
Yeah.
That divine order, from their perspective, is good. It's moral because it comes from the supreme good, their God.
Well,
so that would be an example of objective good being above what we might consider, good normally.
So I'm trying to find the variable in the simulation, if you will, for good, right?
We're back there already. We didn't last 5 minutes.
Well, I've got to bring it here because this is, that's my viewpoint. So I'm trying to understand this whole concept of this conversation, because to me, chaos, because that's what the world is, right? Code is chaos right now. The reason I say that, there's structure in all this, obviously, but you have to give the random aspect of things. And because we're conscious, we see things on an individual level. So like you're saying there in the beginning, everything is individually tied to a perception of an individual. So like, where does the term, good come from? What is good in and of itself? The grass is good, so because it takes in carbon dioxide, spits out oxygen for us. So
not according to the homeowners association, it's not.
Well, and if you got any beavers out back, buddy, you better let them build their dams. Damn it. It's a Pat Gray reference. If anybody watches Pat Gray in the morning, it's a pretty good little kind of thing he's got going on. But that being said, he wants to kill these beavers, right? So these beavers are causing damage on this guy's property. So, but because he wants to kill these beavers, is that a bad thing or a good thing? That's like where my brain's going in this. And if
you're
he's a simulant,
you're going to have different, what is it? PETA organization would say, he's a horrible murderer.
Right, exactly.
But from
he's
a
looking at
homeowner's
it.
perspective, he's
They're
protecting
damaging his
property.
Things. Exactly.
Right,
they're doing
his
bad
property
to
and
him. So.
Right. So that's exactly what I'm talking about here. That's a subjective opinion. Each person has their own unique perspective on the world. I have my own moral compass that I live by, that I try to live by. I have my own code of ethics that I've cultured over the years. So do you. And we're not going to be the same there.
Not at all.
We're going to be similar in certain areas, and we're going to be different in other areas in what we believe is the right thing to do in whatever situation. So, and again, if there's an overarching idea of good, then, some of what we individually think might be parallel to that. Yeah. And some other things we think might be, completely objectionable compared to that.
Like, as soon as you said the overarching good, this is what flashed into my brain. Picture the Earth, right? And you've got the sun on one side, the moon on the other, and they're going around like the yin yang, right? You call the sun good, you call the moon bad. Everything's always chasing itself, but it's also erasing the old, if you will, right? Or it starts overlapping the lines. But that popped into my head going, it's a yin and a yang thing no matter what, and it'll always be the individual that's looking at its perspective. So, but if there's overarching good, is that like and I'm really trying to grasp, like I said, the good and the bad concepts here, because all they are is concepts, and I'm trying to apply it to the universe itself in my head here. And the reason I'm applying it to the universe, because we've got to, if it's simulation, everything's got to be calculated. So the universe is filled with stars, moons, and, emptiness and stuff, if you will. All that stuff is moving around doing things. And does that element of that photon coming off of a star, does it need to have good or bad intentions? Right. That's what I'm trying to, because right now everything, it just seems like it's a human concept.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of our ideologies are just human concepts. There's an argument that our last conversation, time is just a human construct and it doesn't actually exist. But I think wondering about a photon's intentions is a little bit silly, but I mean, that's what we do here. Right. But I think really what I'm looking at is, let's say our solar system, all right, all the planets and the one star that we have, and all the moons, and the asteroids and the radiation belt, Van Allen's radiation belt.
Yeah.
All of that stuff together, and us, of course, and all the life on Earth, and potentially the bacterial, microbial life on other moons or planets in our solar system, all this stuff, is that good? Is it good that those things are the way that they are? And I think, or is it bad? And I think really, objectively, you could say it's good from our perspective, because without all these things being the way that they are, we wouldn't be here to have this conversation.
Correct. Right. I agree with that 100%.
From a human perspective, could be considered that the way things are in the universe is good for us anyway.
Take the humans out of the equation, and what are you left with? Is there what would be the purpose of the word, of good or bad?
Yeah, what's the point
in a world without humans? So, to me, I don't have an answer for that. I mean, I really honestly, yes, there is good, there is bad, but it's a perception, and we're the only ones that apply it in a positive or a negative trait. Because I don't think a lion taking out a prey is going to, have any qualms about it. It's not looking at it as an crying or sadness. Then again, I'm not a lion, so I don't know, but it's just thinking food. I got to eat. And its instinct
maybe
tells
the lion
it to
cries every
catch
time
prey.
it kills a gazelle. Yeah, it is just weeping internally. I can't believe I had to kill this poor creature, but I have to feed my family. What do I do?
And I don't think that they do that. And if you take out our social constructs, humans are just going to be as vicious, if not 10 times more. When it comes to survival. So
you just look at chimpanzee society to figure out what we would look like as a culture without laws, without
let's use those as examples then. So in the chimps or hierarchy, those guys, they're absolutely vicious, just like you're saying.
They're
but
crazy.
Then they also do the absolute most kindest things for one another.
Yeah.
Sitting there picking crap off each other's backs and all that jazz. Tick removal, whatever the case may be.
Insects off. Yeah, you grooming them.
Right.
But I mean, you literally have murder squads in chimp villages, if you will, that patrol their territory. And if they see another chimp that they don't recognize, that chimp, if it can't run faster than them, it dies.
That's it. It's game over.
There's no There's no question about, why are you here? What are you doing? Hey, you better clear off, buddy. No, it's just instant death. Conviction on the spot.
So because they're very similar to us, right? Do you think? Excuse me, everybody. Do you think that they have a concept of good, bad, or is it just instinctual?
I do think that they have a concept of good and bad because while killing other chimp group members that are neighboring to increase their own access to resources, for example, they consider that acceptable. That's good for their clan. But if they were to, if a chimp, and I know this for sure, there's been studies on this, if a chimp kills a member of its own society, of its own group, without some kind of legitimate reason, like they were fucking with my kid, and then I beat his brain in with a rock, or something like that, then they get expelled from the group. They're kicked out. So they do have some kind of rule of law or idea of rules that they have to live by. And if somebody breaks the rules, there are consequences. So they do have that.
Do you see that in any other kind of species, do you think?
Monkeys,
right out the gate.
A lot of monkey species, have something like that.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. The only thing right out the gate I can think of that would be like that are bipedal type animals, like sloths and things like that. I mean, I've seen a sloth cry, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen video of one doing that, if it was an AI, obviously. So, I mean, and if that's the case, then it has a sign of emotion, which an emotion indicates intelligence.
I laughed because you said sloth, but my brain showed me a slug. And I was trying to picture a slug crying, and I was like, that's ridiculous.
Well, earthworms, do you think there's any
laughing, I was like, no. I don't think earthworms have any concept of good or bad. They don't have the neuron capacity. They're just, they're basically just a spinal cord set up.
Consumption and excretion units.
Yeah, right. I need to reproduce, eat. I need to survive until I can reproduce, and then I can die. That's the way of nature for many things.
No, this is true. Many except for humans. I mean, we're the only ones that'll kill our offsprings before they ever even get a chance. So, and that's, obviously I can't, I'm not going to delve into that one. So, situations apply needs for whatever. So, but that's a good and a bad argument as well.
We have. Well, my bad. I thought you were done.
No, go ahead. I'm done. Absolutely. But I just stated that is a good and a bad argument in itself. So
yeah, and that's really my first topic point here in my research was cultural acceptance of certain traditions or behaviors vary wildly across time and geography. So you might have modern, tribe today that does certain, behaviors or has certain traditions that we would consider to be completely barbaric. Like how can they even consider doing this? And all throughout human history, up until very recently, human sacrifice was a real thing that really happened all the freaking time to try to curry favor with the gods, to give them rain for their crops, to give them it was mostly about harvest time, right? I need a good harvest. I need to survive the next winter. So we're going to sacrifice this virgin girl or this child at the top of the pyramid to the god of whatever the hell. And, hopefully that'll appease them.
Right.
And they'll be nice to us this year, But,
but that was
obviously
societal.
Today, it's cultural. But obviously today, if you even mentioned human sacrifice to somebody like in a serious way, they'd lock you up, they'd put you in the mental home.
All right. Well, let's take a break real quick. 15 seconds, everybody. We'll be back on the flip.
Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time. All right, we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Yeah.
We're back again.
So going on this cultural differences thing, I think the most obvious examples would be human sacrifice and cannibalism. Like the two things that pop into my brain is like, oh my God, can you imagine somebody doing this shit?
Yeah, I can be honest with you. As far as cannibalism, I mean, people got to eat.
Like thinking about like you said, could I do that? Would I do that? That's crazy to even think about. Could I do that? It's so disgusting to your typical modern person.
Yeah,
but you have
survival instincts is where it kicks in my brain right away. I mean, you get so hungry, you're liable to do anything to eat, including, be a chimp for a minute, if you will.
Yeah. But you have in Papua New Guinea, in Indonesia, the Kurowai tribe. So the tribe that exists right now, today, they exist. They live in tree houses. They have alleged practices of cannibalism and shamanistic rituals, like they're just straight up out of the Stone Age, right?
Didn't Joe Byron's uncle get killed by Papua New Guinea cannibals? Sorry, I had to throw that joke in there. What? For anybody that was listening on my point of view, as soon as you said that, man, it's the first thing that popped in their head because it was what popped into mine. All right, continue, please. Sorry. Jokes aside,
I don't know if I want to.
Yeah, no, you don't. I'll give it to you here in a little bit. I'll throw it in the show notes for everybody else outside. You'll be pleasantly surprised later.
So you have in other things that we would consider bad, I would assume. I would say in general, people now consider bad. In Kenya, the Samburu culture practices female genital mutilation. They have.
Was there a reason behind that? Do they say?
It's just a cultural tradition that they have. It's sort of like they're, I don't know why. So I don't know.
Would it be any different than Egyptians elongating skulls?
Well,
I didn't mean to kind of throw you off there, but
I think it is a little bit different in ethical point of view, because unless they're doing it to their kids without the kids being able to decide that they want to do that.
Right, prepubescent.
Right. So, but but the female genital mutilation usually happens as an infant, you know.
Yeah.
Same with male genital mutilation, which is the foreskin removal. Usually happens around the age of 2?
Birth.
Or
usually,
in American culture, it's when you're born as an infant. But in Jewish society, it's like when you're 2 or 1 or 2, something like that.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Could you imagine? Oh, my God. That'd be the worst first memory ever.
Right.
Continue.
Exactly. You know? Imagine if they waited until they're 16, where the kid can be like, well, screw this. I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
You know?
I done got used to this. So you want to take it away from me?
Right.
I'm sorry.
I just got started playing with this thing. What do you want to take away my toys for, man?
Exactly. I can't play with it for 6 months. Are you crazy? Straight up bonobo moment right there, man. Sorry. I'm retarded.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the whole point is, you know, something that is completely normal and fine and acceptable in one culture could be completely abhorrent and you know, just barbaric to another culture. Living in the same time.
Good to the universe again, right? Or let's try to apply it back to that, because that's where for me, that's the overarching aspect of this. When you say the word overarching, as far as good, bad, you know, I picture the earth with the sun and moon circling, always forever in opposites, if you will. I'm having difficulties trying to formulate how I want to say it, but if the creator's sitting at the keyboard, entering the variable good, bad, you know, and then defining those, you know, what humans did as good or bad, then the simulation, you know, has to put it across the universe for all beings, if you will, that have intelligence. Exactly. So aliens coming, et cetera, you know, they would all have the same basic principles. And so far, I mean, obviously we have not been publicly alerted to aliens are real, but aliens, if they're time travelers or beings from other planets or whatever the case may be in the simulation, they're going to be bound by that. And I don't think that would be the case. I mean, to me, I think aliens are going to act like chimps in a sense. But then again, you added the good and the evil into their society, so it becomes a societal issue. So, I mean, good. Yes, there is good, and yes, there is bad. It's the only thing I keep coming to in my brain for this aspect. From my point of view, sticking with the simulation as reality. So it's just a variable.
Well, think about the aliens for a second. You know, the aliens you're talking about, the other intelligent beings of the universe being bound by this code, if you will. I don't think that's the case because we haven't been bound by some kind of weird code. All throughout human history, our morals and ethics have evolved over time. You know, it's you know, slavery was a normal concept all throughout human history until very, very recently. And
right,
you know,
but even during it, there's been
opposites
of it. There's a yin and a yang to that throughout all of history. So
but so as we moved along in time as a species, more and more opposition became vocalized, right, to the idea of slavery. So as time goes on and we evolve as a species, as a society, to think about things in different ways, are we getting closer to that ultimate good as we move along? And we've, you know, the abolishment of slavery. I mean, it still goes on today, obviously.
Yeah, there's more slaves on the planet right now than there was ever in history. So, according to the mainstream.
I mean, as modern ethics dictate, slavery of any kind for any reason is unacceptable, but it's still happening. Just like you mentioned, it's still
there's
happening
350 million Americans enslaved with taxes. God damn it!
Yeah.
So I mean, even that, is that a good or a bad thing, right?
My God.
The good and the bad. I have this. I mean, it is a fabric of, just like space-time. It's just an element of consciousness, I believe. It's a perceptual thing, and it's widely varying because every individual has a different perception of what is and what isn't acceptable. I could eat somebody if I needed to. You know what I mean? I'm not going to like it, but
and you could justify it in that moment as I have to survive.
Exactly.
Right. So this is good right now. Tomorrow it'll be horrible again, but right now I've got to do it, and it's good. Right.
Whoever's head I'm bashing in is thinking, "Damn, that's pretty evil." Though at the same exact moment, I'm thinking I'm doing good. You know, that is like you break that right down to that moment. So. I mean, I would assume chimps and everything else think the same.
Yeah. And you think about the modern example of suicide bombing. You know, I mean, these guys, based on their religious belief, believe that they're doing good based on this is what God wants me to do.
Right.
So if God orders me to do this, then it has to be good, because nothing God can order me to do can be evil. And that's the rationality there. And then everybody else is like, I cannot believe this happened. That's the most horrible thing I've ever seen. You know, so it's who's right?
It is really well. I mean, nobody. The reason I say nobody is again, it boils down to individual perspective. So unless it's the creator saying, yeah, that's an absolute bad thing or an absolute good thing, and this goes to a deity, to the coder, or whatever the case may be, however you want to apply it to the omnipotent one. So, I mean, the Christianity faith stems its morals on, Christ and the things that he says are moralistic to do in society. Don't throw stones at the woman, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just randomly picking things here, and then before that was Moses.
The first stone. Yeah.
Right. And Moses before that was the 10 Commandments. And before Moses, you had, what was his name? Noah, right? And then Noah, cared less about the humans than he did each individual animal to make sure he had the pair, So is that a good thing that he did that? If you watch the movie with Russell Crowe, he did some pretty bad shit on that ship. You know what I'm saying?
And it's not that, because we have to speculate here. It's not that Noah was like, saying, oh, all these, I don't really care about all these people. I only care about he was ordered to do this.
Yeah, so but have you watched the movie Exodus?
No.
All right. So Exodus has Christian Bale in it. And the only reason I brought Moses up is because I literally just watched both of these movies not too long ago. And Exodus was the most recent one. My wife had it on, and I come down, and I was like, what do you watch? She's like, oh, X, Y, Z. And as I sat down, I just got absorbed into it. Like, I'm looking at it from a different perspective of when I first watched it and thinking, he doesn't care about the people he's killing when he is a soldier/slave for the Egyptians. But and he refused to accept the Jewish people as his own people, and then when he found out he still had that battle within to come to terms with those are his people. So, he himself denied them and then accepted them, and then was given a set of rules that said this is right and this is wrong. Did that come from his knowledge? Did that come from the ethos or the omnipotent one? Who knows? But he created a rule set of morals, if you will, when that was created. And then the Bible just perpetuates that rule set, if you will. If you take out these things, I still think, just like cannibalism comes into play, it all comes down to that individual moment for that individual entity and whether or not its perception is positive or negative. So,
well, that's just your own
for everything.
Subjective opinion, man. We're going to find out what the real good is pretty soon after this break that's coming up in 5, 7 seconds, 3 seconds.
How about right now?
Right now. Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
The easiest and most free way to show your support for the show is to just keep an eye out on social media and push all the buttons there. You got your likes, you got your shares, you got your retweets, all that. And that will help us tremendously. On top of that, you have 2 ways to join. Join with a one-time payment to get the SBR role in Discord, or for just $1 more. You can subscribe monthly for insider access, like the ability to influence topics, listen live during a recording session, and get access to special stuff nobody else will hear. So join the Discord and become a bonobo.
Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time.
Heidi ho, neighbor yo. We're back again with some good versus evil. I think that video game was pretty cool, to be honest with you. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever played that game? Good versus evil? I remember it's an old game.
I don't think so. I don't think
they're coming back out with a new one, which looks epic if that ever gets released. But Good versus Evil, it played on that duality of things, if I remember it correctly. You're a female that's in a world where like pigs can talk and walk, and animals and monkeys, everything has got a voice and it's got an opinion essentially, and you're either go along to get along, or you gotta fight your way through things. Obviously, it's a video game, so there's a lot of battles and all that jazz. But the moral of the story, I think, was everything that they were doing good for the society, more or less. Not the individual, but the actual society. Yeah. And it was a global thing, right, obviously. So, I think there is overarching good, though. Go ahead.
Sam Harris said something recently, and I don't know about recently, but in one of his talks, Sam Harris is an author. He's a neuroscientist, so he studies the brain and how it operates and things. So he's an author, and he's also an atheist. And he did a lot of debates back and forth around the same time as Christopher Hitchens was at the end of his life. He died of throat cancer. This guy stepped in and was doing these along with a few other people, and they would debate all this stuff. And one of the points he brought up was, if you're trying to create a good society, you have to really look at what within the society is going to create the best life for the most amount of people possible, and give you the least amount of suffering for the most amount of people possible. Because you're not going to be able to have every single person has a great life,
right,
in a culture, in a society. But you can try to limit the suffering as best you can for the most amount of people you can, and he considered that to be the greatest good that we could achieve right now, at least in our own cultures. Now, ancient philosophers have wondered what is good, what the definition of good is, what's a good life, what's a good culture, what's a good society, what's a good leader, all this stuff for, centuries. I got a list of them here, 5 of them. I'm just going to read them out to you. All right. And we can, get your opinion about what they think. So Socrates' idea of good is that knowledge is good, ignorance leads to evil. The only way to live a good life is to practice lifelong self-examination and pursue wisdom. And he would argue, of course, that the only way to do that is to become a philosopher. Plato his idea of good is that it is the highest reality, the source of all forms. And we talked about this previously. The allegory of the cave is the example for this. So everything we're looking at is just a shadow of what it really is.
Right.
So what we think is good is just a shadow of the real good that's hidden away. You got to figure it out. Aristotle. Go ahead.
Is that number 1 and number 2?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I got 3 more.
All right. Well, before you go, let's do each one individual real quick, just so that way I can kind of comment on them as we go. One again was Socrates. You said
Socrates.
So
ignorance leads to evil. The only way to live a good life is to practice lifelong self-examination and pursue wisdom. There you go.
Okay. So that right there, when you said that, right away my brain went, because as we get older, we mature in our thinking, if you will. And the reason that occurs is because as we get older, things, start to break down. We don't move as fast. We don't think as fast. So our morals change on what we accept as good and what we accept as bad. When we're younger, we'll do some dumb shit that's pretty bad. But as we get older, we look back and go, well, damn, I wish I wouldn't have done that because, hell, that broke my leg and now I've had permanent, pain the rest of my life, if you will.
Right.
So that one aspect of things could become good and bad. So age becomes wisdom. Wisdom leads to different morals. All right, so continue. And that's how I took that.
Gotcha.
And then Plato was number 2.
Plato, good is the highest reality, the source of all forms. And then, of course, the allegory of the cave is the example of this.
Okay. So to me, that would be, again, that's just an individual perception, but overall, that's fallen with the universal aspect of good and evil, if you ask me, because he's breaking it away from, if we're just using the allegory of the cave as individual ignorance, and ignorance again comes with age and wisdom. So you're dumb, young, and ignorant when you're young. You get older again, you're not going to run out and break your leg. So
yeah. And before I even found that little description, I wrote in. Plato suggested that all things, from art to music and even beauty, were mere reflections of their true form. So while I might find this girl beautiful, you might find her horrible, and our subjective opinion on beauty exists outside of the objective reality of true beauty that always exists above all other reflections of beauty. So that was his point, is it doesn't really matter what you think is beautiful because you're not a philosopher. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You've never seen the reality of beauty. Right. So,
okay. So what's number 3?
Number 3 is Aristotle. I'm sure you heard of this gentleman. So he says good is using reason to achieve virtuous activity. Developing virtues, achieving balance, and living rationally is his idea of good.
Yeah. So that's just morals, basically.
Yeah.
That's what pops into my head.
But again, you could have, using reason to achieve virtuous activity. Virtuous to me could be different from virtuous for you.
Correct. Yeah.
And so that's sort of a subjective ideology of what is good, what is bad. So Aristotle's
morals
dumbass.
is subjective.
We just figure that out. Number 4. Epicurus, the pursuit of mental pleasure, absence of pain, is his idea of good. Achieved with a simple, moderate life, avoiding distress. He just wanted to live to old age and just chill out. He
wanted to smoke weed every day, all day is what it is. It's what it sounds like to me.
Kind of hang out and do nothing.
That would be a good life, but I don't know. Is production considered a part of life? Because America's got a skewed aspect of a good life anymore. So
Very materialistic, and Epicurus clearly is not materialistic. he's like,
he sounds like he's a hippie from the 60s. So, all right. Yeah, that's subjective too. Sorry.
Yeah. Number 5, maybe my favorite, is the Stoicism idea of good. So a Stoic person. This is from Marcus Aurelius, an old Roman emperor. So he says that good is living with a focus on what is controllable and not what's uncontrollable. With this, one can get inner peace and build a virtuous character. I think of Spock
coming from an emperor.
Star Trek.
Well, but it's coming from an emperor, though, as well. A guy with absolute power, right?
Yeah.
That statement is, can I control everything? Because if I can control everything, then I'll be okay, safe, essentially, and not be worrisome. That would be a good life for him. If he could make sure everybody was doing exactly what he said that he wanted them to do, because he's emperor, mind you. You know what I'm saying? So, but obviously I'm just taking this little snippet. I don't know his whole thing right off the top of my head, but that statement would have come from a time of distress, if you ask me. He was asked that when he's distressed, and he'd probably spit back, if I can control everybody, then I would be happy and good, and that would be good. That's how I got from that.
That would be great. Just do what the hell I tell you, all right?
Exactly.
And don't do what I don't tell you, and everything's going to be great.
So, but you went to Spock with that. How did you get to Spock on that one?
Well, Stoicism is literally Spock in a nutshell, okay? So if you run into a situation where something happens that is outside of your control, right? Somebody smashes into your car when you're driving, and you're just doing what you're supposed to be doing, and they smash you, they T-bone your ass, right? Yeah. Then the idea of Stoicism is you don't worry about that. You just go on and you control what you can control, which is make sure you get their insurance information, make sure that, you get their name and address, phone number, file a police report, right? You do the things you can control, and you don't worry about that car over there that's smoking and probably on fire at this point, right?
Yeah.
That's the Stoic idea of, staying within yourself and not letting things outside of your own control bother you is the idea. Spock is like the supreme Stoic of the universe, okay? Whoa. He doesn't give a shit about anything that he can't control. He's only worried about what I can do about this, and then I'm going to put that into effect.
Then I'm fucking ultra mega Spock. Because I'm pretty stoic over here, man.
Ultra mega Spock.
Thinking of the crap that I put up with from Grimsey all the damn time. And I know him and I are just joking a lot of part, but just the bullshit that comes out of this man. And I just, I can't control that. Make a comment, go on. So,
yeah.
Love you, Grim. If you do listen to this one, odds are he won't. He ain't even subscribed to nothing. Damn bastard. It's part of this shit. And what the hell?
Flaky
that's evil.
Bastard.
That's bad. He's on the opposite side.
That is objectively bad, Grimsey. Objectively bad.
But
yeah,
I consider myself pretty stoic then, if that's the case, because I don't, I'm in that logical train of thinking whenever I do things. So, like, I drive around all day long as I'm driving, doing my job, and I pass NPCs nonstop, right? I mean, people driving in cars that I will never, ever see again. And I've tried counting the amount of people per vehicle that go by me, just to see how many people that you quote unquote interact with on a daily basis that are just oblivious. I mean, they are oblivious to you. They probably didn't even see you looking at them. You know what I'm saying? But they're just some piece of a program running around. Are they doing good or bad? They're driving most of them. But there's a large point in time that I look at men yelling at the women who are driving because they're doing something crazy, and vice versa. I see them looking back, harping at kids or swerving in lanes and, things like that. Plus, I also see the carcasses on the road that from animals. What is that feeling you get? It starts with an E. Fudge. Anyways, yeah, my empathy kicks in like to the nth degree, and it flashes back to my doggo passing away here recently. So all of that stuff like happens nonstop, and I'm cruising down the road. So is what I'm doing good? Is what they're doing good? Is the animal getting killed good? All that shit kind of rolls around. So again, the overarching aspect of, there is good and there is bad. It is all a perception. That's what I was trying to say. So we'll catch it again on the other side of the break.
Yeah. Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time. And we're back, ladies and germs.
Germs.
Welcome.
Are those good?
Welcome.
Germs could be good. What a way to start that, and for me to just delve into this little offshoot of it.
There's some bacteria that are good for humans.
Yeah, because
some that
you
are
got
bad.
Gut bacteria. Yeah. I need good gut bacteria personally.
Probiotics. There you go. Eat your yogurt, kids. Eat your probiotic yogurt.
Well, I can't eat the yogurt because I don't trust the evil medical industry. See? Everybody thinks is good. So. So, again, perspective. It really comes down to a moral perspective and on an individual level.
I think what we figured out here is I don't believe that good is objective. I think it's all subjective all the time. And I think it's an ever evolving idea that, even on the micro level, from an individual human life, you go through, like you said, when you're young, you do stupid things and it's bad for you later. You just don't realize it then. As you go through your own individual life, things change in your opinions about good and bad and right and wrong. But as a group, that these things change as well, and larger ideas of, slavery bad didn't used to be that way, right? Human sacrifice bad didn't used to be that way. Things evolve over time, and we're always changing. But I want to end this last segment off giving you a description of my own personal moral compass and see what you think about it. Okay.
Okay.
So I grew up in a Lutheran Christian.
It's shit. You grew up.
Upbringing.
That's it. You ruined it.
I grew up and it was over. The end. Dead now.
All right.
Okay?
Sorry, my bad. I had to.
So I grew up in a Lutheran Christian household and went to church every Sunday, hated every minute of it, went to church camp in the summer, hated it. I liked church camp because we didn't do many churchy things. It was more like volleyball and going canoeing and making crafts and stuff. It was fun. So that was cool. But
Hang out.
It was the last evening of the last day of the week where we had to sit in this freaking auditorium and sing Christian songs. I hated that. But so I grew up with the golden rule, which everybody knows what the hell the golden rule is. I don't have to describe it, so I'm not going to. But I changed it a little bit because I realized early on that, do unto others like you want them to do unto you. A masochist throws a monkey wrench into that scenario, right? It just breaks the whole rule.
Right.
Right. So it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't apply to everybody. Right. So I came up with my own rule. It's called the do no harm philosophy on life. Okay. So, and this has layers on layers on layers to it. You can go as deep as you want or as shallow as you want. But the general idea is that no matter what you're doing, where you're at, what your intention is, as long as you do no harm to another person or their property, you're in the clear, right? You're doing good. You're not doing bad.
Sure.
So you can go deeper and say, what about drunk driving if you don't kill anybody or you don't wreck? Is that good or bad? Does that violate? It violates it because the potential to do harm skyrockets in that situation, right? It's only a matter of time, basically, until you do actually destroy somebody's life or your own, right?
Yeah.
But and you can go even deeper and say, what about the person that takes freaking meth all day long, And I say, if you're doing it to yourself and you're affecting no one else, then you're in the clear. You're fine. Okay, whatever you want to do to yourself, that's your body. You do whatever hell you want to do to it. But the instant that it's like a mother doing meth or cocaine or whatever the hell she's doing, and, she's potentially damaging the lives of her children, her family, now she's fucked up, right? Now she's in violation
you can apply that to a father,
of the do no harm rule,
You do that to anybody that has kids, right?
Anybody,
with
right?
custodial.
I'm just using...
Yeah.
I'm just using that as an example, right? You can apply this all across the board, right? So you can go as deep as you want into that. So that's my own personal rules for myself.
Okay. I mean, that sounds pretty much like how I personally float through. My kind of motto for, the flip to do unto others is I give what I get, essentially. I mean, if you give me a hard time, absolutely, I'm going to give you a hard time. I'm just going to, I'm a feedback loop, if you will. Right? But I'm not going to, I do have a standard of murder, if you will. I'm not intentionally vindictive or hateful. I personally, I float around with the attitude of happy-go-lucky. It's great. I'm awake. I get to enjoy this environment and this simulation. So let's see what can I learn today. Because I think I mentioned it in one of the episodes that we're here for. This consciousness plane is about learning a lesson, and if reincarnation exists, we're reincarnated and we're there to learn a new lesson in the simulation. Whatever the simulation is doing with that lesson is determinative for the creator, right? So, or the coder, I should say. It's doing, give what I get. And to me, that seems like it's a pretty legit thing.
I was thinking about the simulation yesterday because, you've corrupted my brain at this fucking point. It pisses me off, okay?
Okay.
But I was watching a gameplay video, and it was like a colony management sim type deal, and I can't remember what it was, but it was something I haven't played myself. But anyway, I was thinking about how we create all these games of like medieval life. Yeah. And like Bellwright, for example, is a medieval life simulator. You're going into this and you play yourself. You have your character, you interact with other non-player characters, you do certain things to progress through your life. And what if we create these things to kind of get a glimpse of what it might have been like in that reality, in that era that we no longer have access to directly?
Yeah, well, absolutely.
To sort of simulate the experience of living in that era. And so, you just broaden that perspective all the way out as far as you can, and you have like the universe simulation to see what in the hell the humans were doing on this planet, during this time in history.
Yeah. Well, it's 100%. That's what games are absolutely do. They're an escape from this reality for most, right? When it comes to 3D environment games, such as Bellwright, you're there looking at your character thinking, that's me. I'm going to go here and chop logs. I'm going to go here and get, rock. I'm going to go here and get food. the character, just like you or me, gets hungry and his stomach empties out, bowel movements, etc., etc. So, yeah, that aspect of it is all about learning. What the hell was that? Anyway, I'm gonna leave that in there too, because that was
my bowel movement.
So, but that being said, simulations. What if the coder is doing the exact same thing? He's sitting at his desk playing this game, and we're all the Sims, if you will, floating around, and this guy is just.
We pass by the player character like 5 times a day and don't even realize it's
right. I mean, I just said I drive down the street and I've tried counting everybody that I've ever come in contact with just by passing them. Just you yourself do that. Everybody do that. Mm-hmm. One day, and when you're in the vehicle, just as you're driving, pay attention to everybody that's around you and think you could literally walk up to that person and have a conversation with them. Right, and disrupt their quote unquote routine, if you will. What you do in that, whether you're applying a good or a bad encounter to that, hell, you may ask them, "Hey, how's your day?" and you may get a negative response. So that person then becomes bad to you. So you're going to turn around and be negative towards them, which is going to reinforce their negativity throughout the rest of the day to their next encounter. And now you're done.
Nice weather we're having there, bud, huh?
Right. So it's like this big ass loop.
Weather it is.
But then again, you can never walk up to them and just have them be a counter on your little, I passed that amount of people today. It's so crazy to think of that. And I had my kids do this one day. We were sitting up in Lexington, and we were in the office building looking out over, I think it was New Circle Road. That road's freaking busy, right? And it's a road that encircles Lexington, Kentucky, all the way around it. And inside the circle is pretty much condensed city. As soon as you hit out the outside of the circle, it starts, becoming Kentucky, quote unquote. For all you stereotypical suburbs people out there. Yeah. Or the hillbillies. Anyways. But that being said, I had my kids do that thought train or that thought process. And they looked at me and were just like, "Holy crap, Dad." The simulation that I had told them about kind of came to fruition in their mind. They seen it the way that I had seen it for a brief moment. Obviously, they don't look at it no more like that. But it is. It's like it's a giant freaking computer game, and we are stuck in first-person mode. We can't go to third-person view or top-down, et cetera, unless, I don't know, out-of-body experiences. Some people have them, supposedly. But that's, it's a crazy concept to think. That's why I feel like we're in a simulation. Just doing that one exercise alone, trying to think, what is that person doing? Why are they going from point A to point B to begin with? And yeah, you can apply what you would do, but you got no clue what the hell they're doing. And they're in a simulation, so their thought processes are the same as mine, which means the damn computer is not a Pentium 3, Grim. All right? It's some sort of freaking quantum thing going on. That's a chuck back to, I think it was the last episode 7. I think Grim made a mention about that. So,
yeah.
So, the hardware is pretty exponential.
1995 Apple IG computer running the show. Right.
But yeah, anybody do that thought exercise one day. I mean, and it doesn't matter where the hell you're at. You could sit on your front porch and do this exercise. This is the people that live in your neighborhood who you probably don't know their first name of. You know what I mean? So, and they're in your immediate vicinity. That's crazy for me to, I don't know. But the good and the bad aspect of it is crazy too.
I was sitting outside one day recently. I never do this. I just sat on the porch and I closed my eyes. It was the middle of the day. It wasn't nighttime or anything, middle of the day. And if there wasn't a car going by to disrupt my attention, I could hear every single bug noise that was happening within like 50 yards of me. I swear. It was unbelievable. And it's stuff that you don't notice if you're just going about your day. You'll never hear those noises because your brain just filters it out. But I was sitting there concentrating on the silence, and they just they came in
Amplified
like a
them.
swarm, like, yeah, it just amplified their sound, and it kind of grew and grew and grew until that's the only thing I could hear. And like a car going by would disrupt it for a second, but then I would go right back to it. And that's a pretty strange experience, I guess, that I haven't had in a long time. You don't really hear bug sounds in town.
Right. But now you gotta now throw the simulation layer into that, man. That's all being processed.
You need a pretty big processor to do that.
Yes, you do. But even that, for the whole simulation layer of what I'm referencing here, there is more to what we perceive, and for the good, the bad, the positive, the negative, if you will, for the universe layer. Yes, I think it's written into the code. There is good and there is bad, but it is all subjective from our point of view. So that's how I'm going to leave this episode. I'll let you close out.
Spock makes me feel objectively good.
Until next time, ladies and gentlemen.
Keep that one brain cell healthy.
Peace.
Join us next time for more Smooth Brain Radio. And don't forget, keep that one brain cell healthy until then.